My dear readers, listeners, and of course friends, in the labyrinth of American political discourse, where vitriol and vendetta too often replace virtue and veracity, the recent onslaught against President Joe Biden over the so-called lapses in his memory represents not just a nadir of journalistic integrity, but a disgraceful charade of political opportunism. The masterminds behind this farce, with special counsel Robert Hur as their unwitting puppet, have stooped to levels of malfeasance that would make even the most hardened cynics blush. The script, as laid bare by the sensational conclusions of Hur's report, reads less like a sober legal analysis and more like a grotesque caricature, penned with the poison of partisan bile. It is alleged that Biden, now cast as the beleaguered protagonist in this tawdry tale, suffers from significant limitations on his memory. Yet the evidence, or rather the lack thereof, presented in the transcript of Hur's interviews with Biden, tells a story not of a man undone by age, but of a calculated hit job, dressed up in the garb of concern for national security. The charge that Biden could not precisely recall the timing of his son Beau's death is a low blow, unworthy of even the most unscrupulous of political operatives. That a father's momentary pause to remember the exact date of his son's demise could be twisted into a narrative of incompetence is not just intellectually dishonest, it's morally repugnant. The audacity of these attacks, predicated on such flimsy ground, would be laughable were they not so deeply insidious. This entire episode reeks of desperation, a sad commentary on the lengths to which certain factions will go to undermine a political adversary. The handling of classified documents, the ostensible heart of this matter, has been inflated into a spectacle of absurd proportions. Biden's candid admissions of uncertainty regarding the whereabouts of certain documents are spun as evidence of nefarious intent, ignoring the far more plausible explanation of simple human oversight. Moreover, the gleeful relish with which Hur's findings have been seized upon by political opponents lays bare the true motive behind this saga. Not the pursuit of truth, or the safeguarding of national security, but the assassination of character by proxy. It is a strategy of distraction and distortion designed to divert attention from the pressing issues facing the nation by miring its leader in a quagmire of manufactured controversy. Let us not mince words. This is not about memory, classified documents, or the integrity of the office of the president. This is about power, pure and simple. It is a power play of the most despicable kind, one that seeks to capitalize on personal tragedy and human frailty for political gain. The architects of this ignominious campaign should hang their heads in shame. Yet we know they will not, for shame requires a conscience, and it is painfully clear that such a thing is in short supply. As for the rest of us, it is incumbent upon us to recognize this charade for what it is, a baseless, spiteful, and ultimately self-defeating attempt to denigrate a public servant who, whatever his faults, does not deserve to be the victim of such a vile smear campaign. To draw a parallel to an era not so distant, the tempest now engulfing Joe Biden is made all the more galling when one considers the charmed existence of Bill Clinton, who navigated through scandals with the agility of a cat burglar, leaving a trail of controversies remarkably untouched. That Biden, whose transgressions, if they can even be termed as such, pale in comparison to the flagrant indiscretions and slick evasions of his Democratic predecessor, should now be the target of such relentless vilification, is a travesty of justice that borders on the absurd. Where Clinton was afforded a Teflon coating by his allies and a fascinated public, Biden is subjected to a witch hunt armed with pitchforks fashioned from the flimsiest of pretexts. The discrepancy in treatment between the two is not just a footnote in political history. It is a glaring indictment of the capricious nature of political favoritism and the egregious double standards that pervade the corridors of power. This is not merely unfair. It is an affront to the very principles of equity and accountability. In the final analysis, this episode will be remembered not for the light it shed on any supposed frailties of Joe Biden, but for the shadow it casts on the character of his accusers. It is a shadow that darkens the very soul of American politics, a reminder of the depths to which discourse has sunk. And for those who still hold out hope for a politics of principle over pettiness, it is a clarion call to arms.